Okay, so let's take a look at this seared pork shank. And I want to talk a little bit about this process. If you don't have, say, like a big Dutch oven like this, like I'm going to be braising in, you can just as easily braise in a casserole dish, something shallow like a hotel pan, and we'll talk about how you can do that process a little bit later as far as making sure that you have that layer of parchment in between the foil if you do have a really shallow dish. This is going to be slightly different because I'll have a lid on it. But when it comes to the searing portion, you can do that sear separately in a saute pan if you have a better setup as far as that goes. If that's easier for you in your own home kitchen setup, feel free to get that nice hard sear in a saute pan first. Set it aside. And then in the pan that you're going to be braising in, or even if you have, say, just a casserole dish that you'll be able to do this braise in, you could do all of the components separately in a saute pan and then add them all to a casserole dish or a baking pan, cover it, and put it in the oven. That's what we do in class a lot. You know, we do things in big pans, and then we put them into hotel pans and into the oven. So just because you don't have the exact same setup that I have, don't be put off. You'll be just fine. So I'm gonna saute a little bit of these mirepoix ingredients now. I am gonna start with olive oil now because I'm gonna be doing everything in one pot from here on out, and so the fat that I wanna add, I wanna incorporate some flavor. Yes, I'm trying to get some caramelization, or if caramelization happens with these ingredients, that'll be great. But I don't need it to happen. I'm really just trying to make sure that I can incorporate a lot of flavor. Just a little pinch of salt, a pinch of pepper, and I'm gonna put a lid on it. I have my heat on high. I'm gonna turn it down to medium high. I don't want it to scorch. I'm letting it sweat. I'm gonna go in there and stir it around in a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna finish putting a little bit of a little bit of pepper rather, on the outside of my pork shank. There's a little divot in it, so it's kind of hard to get that part. That's mostly just bone right there, which is why it won't caramelize. And I'm gonna start the braise uncovered in a 400-degree oven, and so this is going to caramelize just a touch more. This is going to take quite a while to caramelize. This process will take me about 20 minutes probably, depending on how high I have my heat. I will go back and forth between looking at it like this, making sure it doesn't need more fat. If it looks like the pan's drying out, because these vegetables will soak that fat in, I'll add a little bit more fat. Not seasoning heavily at all at this point because this is going to cook for a long time, and so I just did a tiny bit of salt at the beginning and that's it. Lid back on. I'll let it sit for a little while, take the lid back off, give it a stir, make sure that it's not burning on the bottom, and I'll just go back and forth doing this for up to 20 minutes until these vegetables start to cook down. I'm not looking for them to be cooked through by any means. In fact, I want them to still have their bite, but I'm trying to get maybe just a little bit of caramelization and just develop some of those sugars in there. At some point, I will take the lid off a little bit just so that some of the liquid escapes. It'll be easier for me to develop caramelization. And then we will be putting this pork shank back into the pan. So we'll take a break.